host, worldwide fans of the planet's hottest entertainment with an edge. Fuego here, back from my namesake program, Enfuegotainment, and another Rapido Fuego review. And we don't get very many of these, at least haven't for a long duration of time, but a new film in theaters that is seemingly starting to change as people are getting the little punctures in the arm and getting things figured out, and yes, we are slowly turning a page, not quite there yet, but it's exciting to see something like Nobody, with Bob Odenkirk coming out. And this was, upon the trailer, I was just like, okay, this is gonna be more of like a comedic John Wick, and yet very stylized, very violent, and honestly, that's what we got. But the biggest difference here between the two is that I think Odenkirk is actually, like, at least he's a better actor for this sort of role, because, he's a family man in comparison with Wick, who's like, had a lover and then, got married and everything, and they had a dog and whatever, but he's not like, Keanu's character didn't have, like, kids and, like, the full proper, like, suburbia sort of situation going after walking away from the business like Odenkirk's character does in this. And so, for that reason, I actually think that this character is a little more compelling and a little more intriguing. That's not to knock, Mr. Reeves, but yeah, man, he's all about that sort of stoicness and just like all-out badassness. The John Wick films are great. Ironically, the third one might be my favorite. Second, probably the weakest. And the second one is actually what this holds, story-wise at least, the most similarity to, because in that film, John Wick's character, somebody he gets himself in trouble with, basically just wrong person, wrong time sort of situation, just kind of blows up in his face and turns into something that much bigger. And that's the second John Wick, because, the first John Wick was where, dog is killed, and so he's on the revenge status for that. You get an amusing nod to that in the trailer, because his daughters, there's these robbers at the beginning of the film that basically break into his home. His family, most notably his eldest son, thinks that he's kind of a pushover and stuff, because these two just kind of bumbling robbers break into the home, and Odenkirk's character, Nobody, he has his opportunity to basically take these two perps down, and his son witnesses him about to do it, and then presumably chicken out, but it's really him just trying his damnedest not to embrace getting back into this former life as this kind of contracted person for, the government agencies that have 3 A's, as he describes it at one particular point. So he holds back, and, the robbers escape or whatever, and his son's like talking shit to him, and he has no idea the caliber of craziness that dwells within his father that Odenkirk's character is trying to keep subdued, and yet it's the missing kitty bracelet or whatever that his adorable little daughter has, that he thinks these robbers have, and so he goes after them, and it's just the spark that ignites him just getting into a situation where he's, trying to extract some vengeance and retain this piece of kids' jewelry, and in the process, he runs afoul of these kind of like Russian gangbanger dudes, and yet they've got like a whole entourage. There's some like Russians. There's some like a couple American guys. There's like a kind of like Thug Brother with them too and stuff. And so it is like kind of a myriad of thugs that he finds himself involved with in this bus fight, which I believe you see some of in the trailer. And it's hardcore. It's very entertaining. That's the one thing that, even though this isn't just chock full of action throughout, it's not like this director's previous movie, which was entitled Hardcore Henry, and it was that POV sort of thing where it was basically like you were in a first-person shooter and you're running around from the perspective of I'm trying to remember if the lead character was dude from District 9, or if he was like a supporting player that you saw on screen for the most part. I think it was the latter. He was like your main advisor, teammate, like whatever sort of thing. But that movie was friggin' relentless. This film, in contrast, like, that's why I'm giving so much praise to Odenkirk. Now, I know a lot of people, they're probably more familiar with him, at least as of late, because he was like Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, I think, is the spin-off show from that. I don't watch those programs. You know, I saw a little Breaking Bad, so I think I watched the first season, and I thought it was just okay. Not quite my jam story-wise, but he's always been Mr. Show for me, and so that's why the show, the sketch bit on HBO that he did with David Cross, that show was friggin' hilarious. So it was very amusing for me. I'm sure this character, or excuse me, this actor has done some ruthless stuff on the Better Call Saul show, or maybe so I assume. But for my primary kind of just familiarity with this guy, being from a sketch comedy show from the 90s, I'm just like, wow, this is quite a turn as a character. And I don't know, you know, the extent of how much he was doing his stunts. I know Keanu, for instance, in those Wick films really prides himself on, you know, how much he actually does. But it looked like Odenkirk was there for a good chunk of this stuff, man. And so, but back to the lack of not being completely relentless, despite the kind of predictability of a lot of this story, I actually think it was a stronger film and actually got to show the range of Odenkirk's acting because of the fact that there were those tender family moments, like with the daughter, and the fact that him and his wife are obviously kind of on the skids a little bit, and they're sleeping with like a pillow between the two of them in the bed. So you can tell that things are just, he's stuck in the repetition. At the beginning of the film, there is a very amusing sequence of, you know, them just the weekly grind for him, you know, going and working for this construction company and then coming home, and, you know, the son who's always on the phone, and just, you know, getting in bed with the wife and just staring at the ceiling and all that, and, you know, missing the garbage guy, and just and it starts to speed up, like the Monday to Tuesday to Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and, you know, just going through the week, and it just gets quicker and quicker and quicker and quicker. The repetition, the redundancy, the tediousness of it all. And so, yeah, it's things like that they add additional laughs, but yet they also add additional heart because of the fact that he is dedicated enough to being away from the brutality of his former industry. And it's just the dedication aspect in that regard is where, did I like this better than the John Wick series? I don't know. There's aspects of it that I liked better. I don't think the action was necessarily superior. I really did, and I'm sorry for all of the comparisons between this film and that franchise, but dare I say, this film derived a great deal of inspiration from it, and so for that reason, yeah, you have to at least compare it, even if it might be more of an apples to oranges. I like the Wick mythology, you know, with the Hitman Hotel and all that different stuff, so that's cool. But I mean, for a presumed single movie, this just, I don't know. I appreciated the fact that, you know, there was more range of emotion from our lead character in comparison with this like borderline, almost like Terminator-esque killer that we get in John Wick. So Odenkirk really brought a lot more range to the role, which I appreciate. It's just the story that's very by the numbers, like, okay, yeah, he pisses off some Russian mobsters, and then he has to face their wrath. He has a former associate of his, former person from, I guess, the agencies in the industry and stuff like that, played by Riza, who primarily doing like a kind of over the phone, like, you know, back and forth talking over like radio transmissions and stuff like that. But really the standout and the biggest surprise for me was Christopher Lloyd as Bob Odenkirk's father in this. So he's in a resting home, he's former FBI, so you can tell the apple didn't necessarily fall far from the tree, but you think he's a little further gone than he actually is, without really spoiling stuff. He still has, being Christopher Lloyd, the father character, the grandfather, I guess, to Odenkirk's kids, but he's got some fire left in the tank, man, and there's some of my favorite sequences in this film are where we start to get clued in a little bit more so to what dwells beneath still, and it's some of my favorite scenes in the film, really entertaining. So yes, the story may be a little thin and a little predictable, but really the ensemble that also includes Michael Ironside as Odenkirk's father-in-law, he's not in a ton of it, but you know, the supporting players, like I'm trying to say here, are all really good and bring some additional enjoyment to the film that I wasn't necessarily anticipating. But the lead performance from Bob is just great, man. It's really damn good, even if the story is a little more by the numbers of, you know, him trying to hide his family after, you know, the shit is really hitting the fan and he has to go after these peeps hardcore. As you would expect from the director of Hardcore Henry, the action is stylized, it is very violent, there's a couple really dope sequences, the aforementioned bus bit is really cool. As the action escalates, we get some car chase sort of stuff. We get some much larger scale shooting sort of situations, you know, at factories and a few other places and stuff. So, and yeah, it's a funny movie too. The villain is extremely villainous, but yet has a penchant for like disco and you know, show tuney sort of stuff. So that's funny. And there's just some very darkly comedic moments with Bob coming back to the house after getting in this bus fight, and you know, he's all beaten up and, you know, still trying to be the sweet family guy. I'll make lasagna, you know, you guys like that lasagna I used to make. And so it's just a very funny dichotomy, and you wouldn't be able, as much as I love Keanu, he doesn't have like the charm and chops to really pull off this role specifically, at least how it's written. He's more of that silent, just, you know, get it done sort of guy, and it works great in the John Wick verse, but Bob Odenkirk 100% is what makes Nobody so much more enjoyable. And so even though I think I rated it on Letterboxd as a 3.5 out of 5 Fuego Fireballs, since I have to commit, at least on my videos here, I always make that decision, I can't go 3, I have to go 4. This is a certified Fuego film. It's probably, it'll creep into like the top like 10, 15 maybe of the year, depending on how the rest of it goes. But for me, this is like the equivalent of how much I enjoyed Guns Akimbo or The Gentleman last year. And I believe both of those were in my top 10 for 2020, because I really do enjoy a silly, hyper-violent, you know, sort of action film like this, especially when it has heart, and that's courtesy of the family dynamic, which is the one thing that we did not have in the John Wick series. So, I've been Jaime En Fuego. You can find me on all social media sectors like Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, here on the YouTubies. This weekend I also have a review coming up of The Courier, which is the new Benedict Cumberbatch film. Exceptional. Easily one of the best films that I have seen this year. A completely different sort of entertainment than you saw in Nobody, if you guys have checked it out. Obviously, a like, a share, a subscribe here means a hell of a lot. And if you like spectacular stuff, jump over to youtube.com/The Horror Show channel. That's where myself and the entire spooky crew do a new video at least once every single day. Most recently, Cecil Laird and myself reviewed It's Me, Billy. Yeah, the new and final trailer for the Black Christmas fan film, courtesy of Bruce, boy, his last name is eluding me, but Dave McCrae, who is a buddy of the channels here, and is going to be playing Freddy Krueger in our fan film, Dylan's New Nightmare, that we have been in the midst of a pandemic trying to inch closer and closer to getting made. So, once again, I've been Fuego, y'all been Rad Status, and until the Reel of Ka comes around once more, hasta luego, cinemigos, constant readers and viewers alike, say thank you. Hope we share more of this cinema palaver sooner rather than later, and until then, if you're feeling up to it, go out to a theater and check out Nobody.